Little by little, all the greatest hits of Wii U such as Super Mario 3D World have been appearing on Nintendo Switch. We call them that for critical success, because commercially we already know how the predecessor of the current big N machine fared. Some have arrived in the form of a port, in which the gameplay was adapted and not much more, and others, like this pack of Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury, do it with great additions that make us go through the box again with better sensations. Obviously, we prefer the second case, as we tell you in our final impressions of the game that goes on sale this Friday, February 12th, to go through the bittersweet flavor of Super Mario 3D All-Stars, which is eager to celebrate the 35th anniversary of an icon like Mario, but not in any way. Top 11 Best Mario Games. Super Mario 3D World, one of the best Mario games. We could tell little about the main game of this pack that we did not do in its original analysis. We scored the Wii U game with a score of 96/100 was the score in our analysis of Super Mario 3D World, and it is not that we came very high, that in the accumulated Metacritic still maintains an average score of 93. It is clear that we are talking about one of the best Mario games in general, not only in the field of 3D. No wonder his return was a clamor. However, 4 years we have had to wait since the launch of the console. Perhaps it was the launch of Super Mario Odyssey in that same and distant 2017 that caused Nintendo not to want to mix too much the Mario 3D of the last decade. Super Mario Odyssey was again another genius of the plumber in all three dimensions and raised the bar of what we expect for a new installment, since it is not being especially prolific in terms of new releases. That's why it always comes in handy to pull the catalogue, and that's where this remastering of Super Mario 3D World comes into play. However, is it exactly the same game? Yes and no. This version of Super Mario 3D World, a title released in 2013 as a continuation of Nintendo 3DS Super Mario 3D Land, contains all the main levels of the game, which precisely bet on differentiating its maps instead of betting on a more open-world experience. However, to modernize the experience a little, it has been chosen to attack what could be the most outdated aspect of the title in the middle of 2021, the rhythm. Essentially, the movement is somewhat faster and the abilities of each of its 4 playable characters have been slightly modified, but the effects are barely noticed without a direct comparison. Essentially, the great novelty is the inclusion of multiplayer. Users can create their IMs or join those that appear on the world map and be able to play cooperatively with that competitive touch of background because it is the best of each level. Of course, there is a but. Only the host will maintain his progress. Guests at the show will have to pass those levels alone again. In addition, the levels of Captain Toad, which were invented for this game before becoming its own excellent spin-off, now adapt to multiplayer groups, instead of forcing 3 people to watch the host have a little fun. It's quite curious that Captain Toad's games arrived on Switch before his own father, but finally there is a complete family reunion. It is interesting to return years later to see it different and special. That can be a title like 3D World compared to successors like Odyssey or predecessors like those included in Super Mario 3D All-Stars compilation. Instead of having camera freedom, this one is fixed, which usually seems a limitation more associated with the 2D Mario, but it plays quite well with perspective, which allows you to hide secrets here and there that not only raise the difficulty to complete the game to 100% discovering everything, but is a love letter to the level design that these people mark. Bowser's Fury, the big surprise. In addition to the novelties and tweaks made in Super Mario 3D World itself, this reissue for Nintendo Switch includes completely unpublished content called Bowser's Fury, not appearing on any previous platform or adapting any old Mario and Company title, even though some fans have found similarities with Yoshi's Island. Bowser's Fury is a completely new short game. The gaming experience in this case is diametrically opposed to that of Super Mario 3D World. We are going to find the same graphic engine and the same version of Mario, and his feline costume of the game that leads the pack. But this time it will remind us much more of the freedom of movement of Super Mario Odyssey to the islands of the Sea of Paws, with Plessie as a vehicle to transport us from one island of the archipelago to another. As in so many other Mario installments, mainly the 3D, we have to collect a series of objects called feline sons. The plot, told in broad strokes and without spoilers so that you can be surprised by its outcome, presents us with a gigantic version of Bowser Furioso, hence the title. And therefore these feline sons are a necessary object so that we can unlock the power of the Yiga Ball, a huge superball that will transform Mario into Yiga Mario Felino, a way never seen before that can face, literally, the power of this version of Bowser. Until that climax of the experience, we will have a variable gaming experience depending on whether we have the influence of Bowser Furious nearby, so you can get an idea of how out of control he is. Even Bowser will ask us for help to return him to his being. When the Titanic villain appears, some NPCs become hostile and some sections of platforms appear that are not on the normal map. In addition, the enemy will attack us from multiple angles, which ends up becoming a mechanic to destroy some special blocks using Bowser Furious's own weapons in a risk and reward section. The verdict: Nintendo seems to have learned the lesson that you need to add value if you want to resell some of its best games of the past decade. It is always positive that the best Wii U titles are resurrected for a new audience to enjoy all the not too faithful of the previous Nintendo console, a failure in sales. Do it again. Little more can be said about Super Mario 3D World that was not said at the time, but even the change of pace is positive to modernize it a little. But undoubtedly what we like the most is precisely the novelty of Bowser's Fury. If it had gone on sale independently, perhaps it could have been fair for its not excessively long duration, but the novelties it includes, for a complement to one of the best 3D Mario games, are more than welcome and could perfectly be the basis for an independent title that in the future uses its same mechanics.